All right, hey guys, we're back with Brian and Ariel Dicks. We're thrilled to have you guys. We had you 2 weeks ago when we started out with your testimony. Can you just give me like a 30-second overview of who you are?
Yeah,
Let's just start with that.
yeah. So we're missionaries in Budapest, Hungary.
Okay,
We do international student missions. So a youth pastor at Danube International Church in Budapest. Also do a little bit of worship leading as well there. But yeah, we teach and disciple students, middle school to high school, who are coming from all sorts of different backgrounds.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now we said you're missionaries,
Mhm.
but maybe some of the students out there have no idea what a missionary is. They think of a missionary maybe is somebody that goes and I don't know, is on a mission to go conquer the world, and that's not exactly what we're doing. So
Yeah.
what is a missionary?
Yeah, so a missionary is a follower of Christ who is sent out from a church with a specific calling to reach others with the gospel,
Okay.
which sounds very specific, but there's tons of different ways that happens.
Okay, so maybe explain then how that looks like. If I felt like the Lord wanted me to devote my life to reaching other people with the good news of Jesus Christ, what ways are out there to do that? Do I have to be a pastor?
No.
Or okay, so what is that?
That's an
Wow.
excellent question because a lot of people think that I have to be a church planner. I have to be on the street, preaching
Mhm.
Jesus to these people who might not understand my language. Like, those things are, viable, and that those things happen plenty. But also there are things like teaching, which is what we do. Which, there's teaching in the native schools and reaching people that way, or like the school we're at, we're support for the missionary families there so they don't have to leave the field to find good education for their children. Hospitality is another one. I
Mhm.
can think of one of our teammates in our town, and she just has the gift of making people feel loved and welcomed, and that opens the door to big conversations about Jesus. And so, yeah, there's a
Yeah,
wide
medical
variety.
missions, trade
Mhm.
missions. God can use any ability or skill you have to reach others with the gospel. And so, yeah, it's not just planning a church. It's not just standing on the street evangelizing. Those are perfectly great
Mhm.
ways to be a missionary. But there's all sorts of ways that God can use you.
How would somebody know that they're called to missions?
Yeah.
How would somebody know that we're talking about a little bit about the gospel? How would somebody know that their life's calling should be to devote themselves to sharing the message of Jesus Christ with others? What put it? I guess maybe we can ask it like what did put Budapest in y'all's hearts?
Yeah.
Well, that's a fair question, but I'd like to say that uh, it's not limited to overseas, and I know that
Mhm.
you would agree with me on this.
Yeah.
But as followers of Christ, no matter where we are, what we're doing, we're
Mm.
called to be sharing, whether that's at school, whether that's in a secular career, as one might say,
Mhm.
whether it's in Budapest, Africa, it doesn't matter where, we're called to share, no matter where we are.
Is that fair for students too? I mean,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
If you're a
sure.
follower of Christ and a student, there's no reason you shouldn't be sharing with those around you. I know it's scary and not super comfortable, but the gospel isn't meant to make you comfortable. It's meant to save your soul.
right.
So, as far as feeling called to missions, we're all called to missions. It's just maybe he speaks specifically to your heart about somewhere. And God is a personal God. And so for me, I've seen him call people in different ways. It's never a one, like this
Mm.
is the formula for how he calls you. For me, I just always was drawn to people of different cultures and different backgrounds. Even as a child, we told my parents we were moving to Budapest, my dad was like, "I'm not surprised. You've always gravitated towards people of every background, and I knew one day you would be somewhere else. Didn't know where it would be." And so it's just different for everyone. But I
Yeah.
feel like no matter where you are,
And
you're called to share.
and everyone is called to share the gospel and how they live and how they communicate with others. With missionaries, though, a lot of times the distinguishing factor is sometimes God places a very specific people on our hearts,
Mhm.
or He places a very specific job, or He's given us a very specific gifting, and fulfilling that, carrying that out, requires moving to a place that maybe we can't support ourselves with an income. For example, if I'm going to if I'm going to start a church somewhere in Africa, or I'm going to start a church somewhere in Europe in a different country, a lot of times I can't move there as a citizen of another country and easily have my own income and also start this church. And so what a missionary is someone who's supported and sent by churches in America. They receive their salary for living, for what they need to eat and have shelter. They receive that money from supporters from churches in America. That way they're able to live overseas and to accomplish the call that God has given them.
And that's really, we'll talk about this a little later, that's really born of a passion for people stateside to see people around the world come to know Christ.
Certainly.
And not everybody has the ability to go or has the calling to go, but they say, wow, we want to really be involved in people knowing, and there's this couple that we can get involved with.
Yeah, exactly.
There's lots of people like you. You're not the only ones, and maybe this is your first introduction to a missionary, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have said, we will spend our life sharing the love of Christ with other people in an international context.
Exactly.
What qualifications do you have to be a missionary? Obviously we would say the base level qualification is you have to know Jesus Christ
for sure.
as your Lord. He has to be,
for sure.
he has to be in you, and you have to be in him.
Yeah.
You have to have your sins paid for by the blood of Christ. But are there other qualifications that young people could be thinking about when they think about missions that they can align their life to, so that if they say, wow, I want to be involved in missions, what do I need to make sure I'm doing to meet qualifications?
I think one of the most important things that sometimes gets overlooked is you need to be an active part of a church. God doesn't call, a lot of times we look at the history of missions and we think, well, William Carey or, all these guys that were called out, they were just one person, and they were sort of these lone wolf missionaries for Christ. But even they had people behind them and place where they were sent out from. They had churches behind them.
Even Paul. All the way back into
exactly.
the New Testament.
Yeah, so being a part of a church where people are supporting you through, yes, finances, but prayer, where you have a home base, people to keep you accountable, people that you have Christian community with. You cannot do missions alone. He did not design us to do any of this life alone.
And they won't know to pray for you unless you know them. So being actively involved in church. I would also suggest trying it out. So going on a short-term mission trip, as many as you can get your hands on, working in local outreaches. I'm positive First Baptist probably does a lot of local outreach.
We do, or all of this.
So get involved in that and see what it's like, see what sort of area your heart's drawn to, see how the Lord speaks to you, and he will take it from there.
Yeah. And the other thing is having a specific call or maybe a specific gifting that God has given you, which the scripture is pretty clear that he's gifted us all with different things. There's no Christian who has nothing to offer for God, but it's taking an honest assessment of what God has gifted you with, what God has called you to do, and if that lines up with a people group in another country, if that lines you up with being a missionary, then fantastic.
Was it scary for you guys to say, because there's might be a lot of students that are watching this that are saying, I'm thinking about my future, who I want to marry, what I want to do for a living, how I want to retire. Was it scary for you all to say, I'm going to set that aside and let my first focus be that I'm going to dedicate my life to other people and investing in other people? Was it?
I think it depends on the person, because sometimes God does that. Sometimes he takes someone who has the plans for their life all in place, what they think they want to do, and then he gives this clear call that is in contrast to what they had been planning. For us, I think it's just always been a part of where he was leading us.
That's been what it is for us.
Yeah,
that is the dream for you all.
Yeah, that's unique for us, maybe, but
as we met and were in college, we
don't say that holier than thou. We say that as just the honest truth. That's
the way it worked for us.
What it's been for us.
But isn't that the hope of all people, that the dream for Christians would be that they want to share Christ with other people? What higher calling can you have than that? That's such an eternal, because you're investing in an eternal soul. Things that really last. So what is the process by which you get from working a secular job to being in full-time Christian service for you all overseas? Now, did you have jobs here stateside?
Yeah, I worked in a restaurant for a few years.
It wasn't a career really, but it was a job.
So what did that look like for you all to step away to that? And then you land in Budapest.
Well, one of the first things after God has called you and you have this clear call, hey, God wants me to be involved in missions. Talk with people in your church about that, talk with your pastor about that. But then when you're ready to pursue the next logistical steps, one of the things is to find a mission board. A mission board is a group that sends out missionaries to different fields. And so this is an organization that will help train you, prepare you for the mission field, because it's a difficult transition. So they'll help coach you on what are some things that you can expect. They help you out with finances, with support raising, with doing a lot of background logistical things. But that's one of the first steps. And then as you go, you'll probably need to raise some funds, monthly support, so that when you're overseas, you have the support coming in for your expenses.
Yeah. Cool. All right. You spoke a little bit. You answered this question a little bit a minute ago, because my question was, how are missionaries supported? And they're supported primarily
through churches and individuals. Yeah.
Which is the biblical concept. I mean, Paul talks about that a lot. You go and be provided for by the church and the believers in that area.
And our church here, First Baptist, gets involved with.
Exactly.
We actually support you all
Yes.
as you're part of our extended missions team.
Yep.
And you are an arm of First Baptist reaching way overseas, and we're thrilled about that. Let me wrap up with this, because you guys are over there in Budapest. This is a picture of Budapest.
Yeah.
Right on the river there?
Yeah, right on the river.
We don't
river is
live
it?
on the river, but
Danube.
the Danube River.
Okay.
Blue
Cool.
Danube. It was green that day, but
Great picture. You all are there, but somebody maybe says, I don't really want to go overseas, and I want to be involved in short-term mission trips too, but I want to do missions day to day. How can a student, like, what are some ways that a student can get involved in mission stateside? You talked about giving, and you talked about praying.
Yeah.
Are there any other? Would you want to expound upon that a little bit? I mean, is it how can we pray for you? How can we be involved in missions from our end on this side? What things do you need prayer for?
Yeah, so it's prayer for sure, but a lot of times that involves having a relationship with a missionary. So even though, sure, having their newsletter is great, receiving their updates, so generally what you can be praying for. But we have several of our supporters, or people who don't financially support us, who are regularly sending us individual messages, who are checking in on us, who have that. I mean, with technology these days, it's easier and easier to do that. But we can tell you personally, it's very, very key, very important to have those people in your life who you feel like you can go to if you have something come up and you need prayer for. Yes.
So, that would look like, maybe specifically, I feel like it might be your question, maybe a youth group adopting a missionary family to pray for weekly and check in with them, maybe monthly or quarterly, or maybe each small group having a family to check in on or look on. And when they're here in the States, have that small group host them at their home for a meal or watch their kids, so that the parents can do support raising or have a date night, or there's all sorts of things that they can specifically be doing if they want to be more hands-on, involved in the FBA missionary team.
So it's not just money.
Yeah. Okay.
Although that's
sure.
an important part, and it's not just prayer. It's you really want people to be involved in y'all's lives.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Well, guys, we're going to talk next week about, with the Dickses, what missionary life is like, because
I'm excited.
live in a different place.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't just plug in your blow dryer.
Not one from here.
Not one from here into an outlet and it work. You have such, so there's some differences.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then we're going to wrap up with talking about Ukraine, because you're very close in proximity to Ukraine, and so have some great thoughts on that. And so we're going to talk about Ukraine. And so, guys, come back next week. We'll talk to the Dickses again.